begin. You know, I hear that a lot. Like, where do I start? I would say there is huge power in beginning. There's huge power in starting. It's almost like the universe begins to support you when you take that first step.
Yes.
I would say believe in you when no one else believes in you until the whole world believes in you. I think the reason why we even have the question of where do I begin is from fear. We're paralyzed. So it's start to believe in yourself and start to read books and realize all the great heroes were anonymous for 25 or 30 years before the world celebrated them. I would also say genius is less about genetics and more about your habits. So, you know, start with the philosophy of beginning and starting. Start to believe in yourself. Understand that you're going to be laughed at. You're going to be misunderstood. And every great hero is misunderstood at the beginning. But then install the right habits. And this is where the methodology does follow the philosophy.
Yeah.
Once you get the philosophy, which is just the truth, what do you want your life to stand for? You know, what's most important to you? What are your big five for the rest of your life? What are the key values and beliefs you want to live by? Once you get the philosophy calibrated and you don't follow the world's philosophy, you have the bravery and wisdom to trust what feels right to you. Then start installing the habits that science have proven to work. And for me, it's been the 5 a.m. club is very powerful, the 5 great hours rule, the second wind workout, which is basically if you believe exercise is valuable, why would you only do it once a day? The micro bravery, a great pre-sleep workout, the weekly design system, etc.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Robin Sharma, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, practice being excellent.
It's easier to behave yourself into a new way of thinking than think yourself into a new way of acting.
So act first, and then you'll start to think and believe it, as opposed to think and believe and then start acting.
Practice being spectacular long enough that unspectacularity has no ability to enter your orbit. Right? I mean, how do the great athletes become great? You know this, you're an athlete.
Practicing nonstop.
It's just practicing nonstop, and the behavior researchers call it automaticity. Right? You practice, people go, well, how do I get discipline? Well, discipline is a muscle. You are someone's undisciplined, and then you get out of the bed and you get up early, or you make your bed, or you do 25 push-ups or whatever, and you do it and you do it and you do it. And through the power of neuroplasticity, the malleability of the human brain, it's almost like a metaphor is for anyone who wants to make a change and who says, I can't do it. Well, your can't do it is the reason why you're not doing it. Because the can't do it is your weaker self versus your heroic self. So it's almost like a metaphor. You wake up in the morning, you know, and you want to do something. Let's say it's to be a better, more focused, better performer, because an addiction and distraction is the death of your creative production. So it's almost like a wide open mountain meadow. And the first time you practice turning off your phone and practicing what I call in the Everyday Hero Manifesto, the 5 great hours rule. Forget working more than 5 great hours a day. 5 sweaty, intense hours. So say you want to practice that. It's almost like you're walking in a mountain meadow, and it's a pure mountain meadow. You do it after a few weeks, now the meadow becomes a trail because you've practiced it. Eventually the trail becomes a road, and you keep on practicing it, and eventually the road becomes a highway. And if you keep on practicing it, the highway becomes a super highway. And then if you look at the neurobiology, you've got this circuit, and around it starts to form a fatty tissue called myelin. And some people believe, some neuroscientists believe that myelin is the secret of genius. That's why Wayne Gretzky could send the puck to where it was going versus where it was. That's why Steve Jobs could see around corners, and he was, this favorite word I love, prescient. He could see where everything was going before anyone else could. It's not because these people are cut from a different cloth. It's because they run different protocols, think different thoughts, and they do different things. And what I'd say to wrap that up is, to have the results only 5% of the population has, we've got to be willing to be brave enough and faithful enough to do what 95% of the population are unwilling to do.
Rule number 3, improve yourself every day.
There's such power in personal improvement. I saw a comment section of an online newspaper and someone was mocking the idea of self-improvement, but Michelangelo's David in Florence, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, Jonas Salk's Vaccine, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, the Taj Mahal. Those were all examples of self-improvement. Our civilization has got to where it's at right now through the progress of people who improve themselves by reaching deep within themselves and saying, I am more than I currently am. And I have a vision and I will materialize it when it's easy, when it's hard, when it's dark, when there's sunshine, when I'm doubtful, when I'm confident. So the second word representing the second piece of advice I'd give if I was dying, let's say, would be grow. Use each day as a platform to build your knowledge base so you can deliver more value. Use each day to grow in your self-awareness. Use each day to grow your muscles and your physicality. Use each day to read and pray and meditate and journal so you grow into and glorify your greatness.
Rule number 4, keep your promises.
Being meticulous, if not impeccable, around promise keeping is a great way to increase your self-discipline and your willpower and your character and your spirituality. If you say to someone you will call them next week to take them for lunch, do it. You say to someone you're reading an amazing new book, you've heard about it, it's called the Everyday Hero Manifesto, or any book, of course. And you say you'll send it to them because you love it so much, do it. And as you become meticulous and outright impeccable with keeping your promises, you get to a place where you simply cannot not follow through on your promises. And it builds such credibility in other people's eyes, but it really gives you this iron will. Even if you say you're going to do a workout, so your self-promises, follow through on those. The more you follow through on self-promises, the stronger your willpower gets. Remember, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more you exercise it, the stronger it will become.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, listen to your heart.
I believe there are actually 3 other interior empires that complete the personal heroism equation. Mindset, is it important? Absolutely, because that's your psychology. Your daily behavior reflects your deepest beliefs. Unless you upgrade your psychology, then your behavior will always be limited. And no question, positive thinking is important. But there's a chapter in the book called the Big Lie of Positive Thinking.
Yes.
I can get into that. But
Yes.
so your mindset's important. Having said that, there are 3 other interior empires. The second is your heart set. Now, a lot of people, I know so many entrepreneurs and industry titans and professional sports superstars follow your work. This could sound like a little flaky and weak. Actually, it's incredibly powerful to purify your heart set, because your mindset is your psychology. Your heart set is your emotionality.
Yeah.
We are, as human beings, we have emotions. It was a wide open heart that allowed Beethoven to do the Moonlight Sonata. It was a wide open heart that allowed Shakespeare to do his work, or Hedy Lamarr to invent. If you look at the most successful, even industry titans, these people are being driven by a compelling cause. Steve Jobs did what he did, not because he cared about money. Steve Jobs did what he did because he was an artist who wanted to bring great beauty to the world. I heard an interview yesterday, tributes after his death, from people who knew him. And they said he Yes, he would get angry because he was so invested in his mighty mission in making the world a better place.
He was almost evangelical.
He was
about his
almost
cause.
evangelical.
Yeah.
There was one thing I found this so fascinating. He called one of his designers 2 a.m. when they were working on the iPhone. Designer wakes up. Yes, Steve. He says, Steve Jobs says, well, you know, in the back of the iPhone, there's 3 screws. Designer says, but that's inside. No one's ever going to see those. Don't worry, Steve. Steve Jobs says, yes, but we know those 3 screws are there and 2 screws are going to be much better. Fix it.
Yeah.
So heart set is our higher level emotions like gratitude, awe, and wonder. And yet here is the key point. Our heart set also is all the suppressed emotions that we pick up as we go through life. Carl Jung called it the shadow side. Sigmund Freud said all of the suppressed emotions that we do not feel, like guilt, anger, shame, disappointment, frustration, that we pick up as we go through life. If those are not dealt with, they come back in ugly ways. And so,
and they're suppressants to your genius.
That is the absolute key, because if our society doesn't welcome us to work through those. So what it creates is, in the book, I call it a field of hurt. And so you can go to all the productivity courses, you can read all the business books, you can learn exactly what to do about mindset, but you're never going to get to world class or greatness, because there will always be a block between who you are and who you truly are because of all of those suppressed emotions. Once you learn how to release them, you get intimate with your inner heroism. Your creativity soars, your productivity soars. You actually open your heart to love. Great products are made of love. Great teams are built of love. Great movements are launched from love. Then there's mindset, there's heart set, there's health set, and then there's soul set. Soul set is your spirituality. I'm not necessarily talking about religion, but once you turn down the loud voices of your ego, we can talk about the tools to do it, and you start to hear the silent whispers of your inner hero, you start living the truth. And when you do that consistently, you become the most powerful person in every room that you're in. And you don't need to worry about branding, because your character and your energy and your love is the messenger for every single thing you do.
Rule number 6, own your truth.
There are only 2 reasons why we are alive, and I think if we strip away the accessories and the trinkets that the world sells to us as the metrics of success, like how many social media likes do you have, how much money do you have, how much fame. In the book I say JPF is always more valuable than FFA. Joy, peace, and freedom is 1,000,000 times more valuable than fame, fortune, and applause. And ask anyone who has fame, fortune, and applause what they would be willing to give for joy, peace, and freedom. So we get to live. The great thing about being human is we get to live as we wish, and I'm in no position to judge how anyone's living. Personally, I believe when we get to the last hour of our last day and we strip away all the things so many people are chasing, I deeply believe only 2 things will matter. Number 1, who did you become? As compared to our promise, how much of it did we materialize through the work we're talking about? And number 2, how many people did we help?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like, and they're connected, because the more you own your truth and move through the layers of fear, doubt, disbelief into your most creative, productive, powerful, loving, decent, noble self, the more you will start to see yourself as an instrument of service to the world. I think that's our fundamental nature. It's to give.
Rule number 7, leave your comfort zone.
Leave the safe harbor of the known, because it's the most dangerous place to be. Hug your monsters, embrace your dragons. You will realize you have been limiting your life based on a series of illusions that were taught to you and programmed into you, and that were brainwashed and heart-washed against your genius. Invent. Go blue ocean versus stay in the safe harbor of the known. Ask yourself, what product, service, magic can I bring to the marketplace that no one else is daring to do? Don't copy, create, invent, and invent your life. Once you are at a place where you know all the answers to your biggest questions, tear it all down. Reinvent yourself. Move to a new country. Start reading new books. Try a new business. Become a new person. Invent is what I would say. Never stop improving. That acronym I've been teaching, NSI, never stop improving. Maintain that white belt mentality. The thing about a master is she never thinks she's a master. She always operates like a beginner. Finally, the fifth word I would offer to you with great love, respect, and faith in your brilliance.
Rule number 8, choose to do difficult things.
It is so powerful to be in the business of doing hard things. What makes a leader? What's an entrepreneur? It's someone who literally understands that you get paid to find solutions to difficult things. In your life as a human being outside of business, choose difficult things. Choose the longer run. Choose the harder workout. Read the difficult book. Have the hard conversation. Vote for the challenging project that no one else in your industry will do. And that is a great way to develop willpower, because as you move through the project towards completion, it draws hidden forces and strengths that you did not know you had out to see the light of day, and you get to know how powerful you are.
Rule number 9, stop being busy.
I would say an addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production when it comes to productivity. In the Everyday Hair Manifesto, there is a revolutionary rule called the 5 great hours rule. So you don't need to work for 7 hours a day. I do not subscribe to hustle and grind. I don't work for more than a few hours a day. I work 4 hours every week. I take 4 months plus off every single year. How I do it is in the book, including the weekly design system. When I work, I'm away from distraction. There's a difference between real work and fake.
Right.
There's a difference between real work and fake work. Let us not confuse busy with productivity.
That's right.
Let us not confuse movement with impact. So I think that's really important. And we can get into the Menlo Park and the type of total focus structures. But you talked about family, Ed. And I believe the greatest gift we can give another human being is the gift of our presence. And if you look at the greatest heroes and the greatest leaders, they had an ability
100%.
to be there. And the very fact you said it means you do practice it. And I can tell everyone watching right now, you have so much presence. And I'm not talking about charisma, which you have.
Thank you.
I'm talking about you are here in a world where a lot of people are cyber zombies and, you know, just not present. So I think you can change the world and live a world-class life, or you can play with your phone all day. You can't do both. And we could get into the science of emotional residue every single time you check a notification. Every single time you like something.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is live a life of service.
Serve. It's the formula for happiness. Find a cause that's larger than yourself and donate the remainder of your life to it. Serve. Meet someone on the street, try to leave them better than you found them. Serve in your business life. Be a servant leader, servant hero. Ask yourself, how can I deliver magic and value to them? Serve your family. If you have children, grow your children, develop your children, inspire your children, your significant other, help that person become the person that they're meant to be. Serve the world in your own unique way. That would be my advice to you if I were dying. So the research, as I mentioned, University College of London says it takes 66 days for any human being to wire in a habit. And we all have a gift called neuroplasticity, so we all can do it. And then the model I share in the book is called the Habit Installation Protocol, and basically it's 22 days called called destruction. To get up early, you've got to destroy your old neural patterns and emotional signatures of getting up later. That doesn't happen in an instant. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle, gorgeous at the end. So that first destruction phase is 22 days. There's nothing wrong. Society says it's hard, so it's bad. I'm suggesting it's hard, so it's good. That's what real change is. With that awareness, you can stay with it and get into the second phase, which is installation. And that's like a house renovation, which is messy. And that's why change is messy in the middle. Your old pathways and ways of being are falling apart. But you know this because I sense you have a very deep grounding. In that middle part, you have to, in some ways, let go of who you were. It's called a dark night of the soul. So for 22 days, it's messy in the middle because you're letting go of who you were. That's not easy, and that's why habit installation, you need to have some bravery. But that's only 22 days. Stay with it because then you get to the third phase, which is implementation. So destruction, integration, implementation. Well, now we're on the short roads, and the neuroplasticity has kicked in. And the researchers call it automaticity. You will, every human being can get to a place 66 days later, approximately, where it actually gets easier to get up at 5 a.m. than to stay into bed. And the point is, it's called automaticity. And that's, we all have that ability. We just need to stay with that 3-stage process for 66 days. There is a reason many of the great women and men of the world, the great history makers, the great poets, the great philosophers, the great movement makers rose before the sun. There is a magic in the air at 5 a.m. And that's why the 5 a.m. Club is so transformational, because it's the time of greatest quietude. And I believe tranquility is the new luxury on our planet. It is a time of intimate creativity because you've just been rested. Your brain is fresh. There's very recent cutting edge science coming out now. When you sleep, your brain actually has a mechanism to wash itself. When you wake up in the morning, your willpower is strongest. When you wake up in the morning, you've got a full well of mental focus. And we know that focus in our world is even more valuable than intelligence. And I could go on the benefits. I mean, you get up at 5 a.m., you've got the world to yourself. There's no crowds. You can think, you can plan, you can care for yourself in a world where so many people are so depleted. And so the 5 a.m. Club really is a game changer. And then it's not just get up at 5 a.m. and, scratch your stomach or stare up at the ceiling.
Or look at your phone.
Or look at, especially not, I believe you can play with your phone or change the world. You don't get to do both.
Yeah.
And so the 5 a.m. Club method is based on the 20-20-20 formula. I'm happy to get into it, but that is
tell us what it is.
That's the revolutionizer. And it started from my experience with working with many billionaires. I've coached many of the most successful financiers and titans of industry for over 2 decades. And one of the things I would run them through is the way you begin your day sets up the way you live your day. And so the 20-20-20 formula that the book is based upon is pretty simple. I go into great detail in the book, but essentially it's from 5 to 5:20. The first pocket is move. And I'm a fanatic about neuroscience. And why do you get up and move? Because you're going to release serotonin, which is going to make you feel better. You're going to release dopamine, which is the pleasure and inspirational neurotransmitter. You're going to release norepinephrine, which will boost your focus. You'll promote neurogenesis. Marie, you can actually grow new brain cells.
Oh,
you're going to increase your metabolic rate. So the way you feel when you first wake up is not the way you're going to feel at 5:20. Second pocket of the 20-20-20 formula, 20 minutes from 5:20 to 5:40. That's on reflection. So a lot of us are busy, but what's the point of being busy if you're doing the wrong things? The billionaires, the great creatives, the people of great impact, the people who live beautiful lives are very intentional. Mm-hmm. They're very deliberate. They're very conscious. So for 20 minutes, you write in a journal. You can visualize. You can pray. You can meditate. You can simply contemplate how you're going to live your day, what you want to stand for during the day, for example. And then the final pocket of the 20-20-20 formula is all about grow. And that's where you just read from a biography or a business book or a philosophy book or
watch a Marie TV.
Well, especially watching Marie TV. That's, of course, that's the game changer, isn't it? And so that's 20 minutes of growing because I think we're most alive when we are growing.
Yes.
And I believe the leader who learns the most wins. So that's in a nutshell the 20-20-20 formula. You see, most people in the room, no, that's not. Everyone in the room has been traumatized. No one talks about this. Oh, this is a business event. You're talking about trauma? Everyone in this room has experienced trauma at some level or another, to varying degrees. Sometimes it wasn't being invited to someone's party, trauma. Right? Sometimes it was sexual abuse, trauma. And so what happens is, this is so important, I could spend the whole day on this, but The human tendency and the cultural seduction is don't feel the pain of the trauma. Everyone know what I'm talking about, or am I out on the jagged edges? Don't feel the trauma. Don't feel the disappointment. You got heartbroken. Don't go into it. Only seek pleasure. Only be happy, happy, happy. Put on the happy face. Watch the happy TV shows. Seek pleasure. And what we do is we actually flee from feeling because of the trauma. And we start to live in our heads, and we numb out our body, and we don't feel. But to be human is to feel. To be a great leader is to feel. If you look at the greatest empire builders economically, Zuckerberg, Musk, Steve Jobs, great example. He felt deeply. You know, he lived in a pretty simple house, even when he was a multi-billionaire. Simple house. He was only about a few things. He was about family. He was about, you know what he said? I love this because I'm a purist. I build my life around just a few things. He said, my favorite things in life, books and sushi. Isn't that beautiful? And he was an artist. He was an artist. And so, mindset without heart set. So we experience trauma and then we block it out and repress it, and then we lose our emotional game, which is mission critical to world class. You've got to love your clients. You've got to love the beauty of creating gorgeous products. You've got to want to serve. It doesn't happen in the head. Oh, you know, service to your clients, to the marketplace, happens in your heart. The desire to lead a world-class life happens emotionally. And that's how you battle-proof yourself against volatility. It's not an intellectual game, it's a visceral game. It's in your DNA.
The thing that you talked about in the book that really hit me is this notion of being braver, of finding ways to get braver. And I don't know, it was one of those where you're kind of like trying to guess what the person is going to say, and I was so struck by that one. How do we practice getting braver? What does it mean to be braver? And then how does that end up being useful for us?
What terrifies you most, go directly there. Because discomfort is simply growth in wolf's clothing. The last chapter is, I don't want to give too much away, but it's an experience I lived. You know, it's Nelson Mandela's prison cell. Have you been to Robben Island?
I haven't, but I am beyond obsessed with Nelson Mandela, so I know the story very well.
You know, I'd encourage you to go because standing in that cell, feeling the sensations will transform you at a soul level as well as heart set level. So how do we become more brave? Well, I went over to Nelson Mandela's prison cell and I stood there and I was shocked. He didn't even have a bed and he was in there for 18 years. Then I went over to the limestone quarry and I saw where Nelson Mandela spent 10 years chipping away at stone to break his spirit because they threw the stones away. And then I saw the showers where this elderly statesman would shower while the young guards would laugh at him. And then in the book, I talk about a true fact where he was asked on Robben Island to dig a grave, and he got in the grave thinking he was going to die, and the prison guards urinated on him. And my point is simply this. When Nelson Mandela was released from prison after 27 years of total incarceration, he invited the prosecutor who was seeking the death penalty to dinner. And he invited the prison guard who kept him in prison for 18 years on Robben Island to his inauguration as president of South Africa. And he was asked, why would you do that? And he said, because if I didn't, I'd still be in prison. And my point is to lead and to become a great hero or an everyday hero. The doorway is through embracing our suffering and doing difficult things. I think pleasure has been promoted too much in our society. Like no great titan of industry, no legendary cellist, no great athlete. You know, the great ones all understand that suffering is the price of greatness. So how do we become braver? You do the difficult things that you don't feel like doing, but you know have the payoff. There's a reason why the visionary founder of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, rises before the sun. There's a reason why Michelle Obama rises very early. There's a reason why Tim Cook, who's leading Apple, gets up before the dawn. First of all, the hours between 4 and 6 are the time of least distraction in this age of dramatic interruption. Number 2, the hours before the sun rises is the period where your brain is most available to your primary creativity. So while you're sleeping, your brain actually washes itself, but also it lets go of the residue of the previous day while you are resting and while you are recovering. When you wake up, your thinking is fresh, your creativity is most pristine, you are most available to access your gifts and your talents. So those are some of the reasons why I encourage you to get up early. You might say, Robin, well, I'm not an early riser. I can't put mind over mattress. I can't win the battle of the bed. Grandma never got up early. Dad couldn't get up early. I guess I'm not the kind of person who can rise before the sun. And what I would suggest to you is simply this. What science confirms, and in particular the data of University College London, you do any new habit, practice it for 66 days, and you will arrive at the place of automaticity. In other words, it'll be easier to run the new habit than not to. 66 days of rising at 5 a.m. will get you to a place where it's easier to get up at 5 a.m. than not to get up at 5 a.m. You'll reach a place of automaticity. In my book, The 5 a.m. Club, I say all change is hard at first, and it's messy in the middle, and it's gorgeous at the end. I'll repeat that again because it's so important. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and it's gorgeous at the end. In the book, there's a chapter on the habit installation process that actually explains the 3 phases every habit goes through before you wire it into the place where it's automatic. Number 1, destruction. Number 2, integration, and number 3, implementation. Really important to remember them. So you can get up early. You can install habits. As a matter of fact, neuroplasticity, which is the phenomenon that speaks to the fact the brain is like a muscle. The more you flex it and push it, the more it's going to grow. You have that gift. It's not just for Federer and Serena Williams and Oprah Winfrey and Shakespeare and Jean-Michel Basquiat and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. You have a brain that has the capability to grow and adapt. So what is the 20-20-20 formula that lies at the core of the 5 a.m. Club method? Well, the first 20 minutes, move. Sweat. You'll release BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which will increase the neural connections of your brain, as well as repair brain cells damaged by stress, and also promote neurogenesis, which is the formation of new brain cells. I know this is a lot of information, but I want to give you great content in this video. Exercising for 20 minutes first thing in the morning from 5 to 5:20, the first part of the 20-20-20 formula, releases dopamine, which is the inspirational neurotransmitter. How valuable is that for your creativity and productivity for the rest of the day? Cortisol, the fear hormone, is highest first thing in the morning. Exercising will reduce it. Serotonin is released, so you'll feel happier. Now it's 5:20, you're full of energy, you've optimized your cognition, your focus is increasing. It's only 5:20, the rest of the world is asleep. Just imagine that advantage you already have. Second pocket for the 20-20-20 formula is all about reflection. We live in a world where people don't reflect anymore. A lot of people are busy being busy, but what's the point of being busy around the wrong things? So for 20 minutes from 5:20 to 5:40, you reflect, you pray or write in a journal, you meditate, you can visualize, you can script out a blueprint for for a great day ahead, which habit researchers call a pre-commitment strategy, which actually increases your willpower and your ability to get your most important priorities done. Okay, now it's 5:40, from 5:40 to 6 o'clock. This is the final 20-minute pocket of the 20-20-20 formula. The first pocket was about move, the second is reflect, and the third is grow. I've coached billionaires and CEOs and NBA superstars and members of royalty for over 20 years. Here's what I've realized when I work with the best of the best. They love to learn. They love to grow. They don't see investing in yourself or investing in your skills or investing in your growth a cost. They think about the value received. I call it the 2x, 3x mindset, to double your income and your impact, triple your investment in two core areas, your personal mastery and your professional capability. So for 20 minutes, what do? You listen to a podcast, you review your journal notes, you read a book, you watch a valuable video, you just do something, you read an autobiography, you do something to grow your capacities and materialize more of the potential you have been born into. And now it's 6 o'clock. You've optimized your mindset, you've purified your heart set, you've calibrated your health set, you've escalated your soul set, you feel fundamentally different. In the 5 a.m. Club, there's another model called the 4 Habits of History Makers, and one of the elements is day stacking. The whole idea is simply this: get your mornings right. Your days are going to be fundamentally more energetic, creative, productive, and high impact. And a great week is nothing more than a series of great days, and a great month is the same thing, and a great quarter is just a series of well-lived weeks. And it just continues, and it creates this upward spiral of success just by getting from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. your victory hour to world class every morning. Consistency really is the mother of mastery, and own your morning. You're really going to elevate your life. Suffering gets a bad rap in our world today. In society, we all want it quick, but if you look at, again, a Nelson Mandela, a Mother Teresa, a Mahatma Gandhi, a Rosa Parks, a Martin Luther King Jr., a Marcus Aurelius. You look at the great statespeople, the great women who led nations, the great men who led movements. I've been studying samurai lately. I've been studying a lot of the great warriors. I've been reading a lot about Alexander the Great. And you could say, well, Robin, in the comment section or whatever, you could say, Robin, some of these people were bloody, some of these warriors. And I hear you. My larger point is simply this: if you look at the great warriors or the great empire builders or the great heroes of humanity, they all had one thing in common. Many of them developed invincible moral authority to live by their deepest vision, values, and virtues through the hard winters of deep suffering. A GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage, in a world where everyone wants it easy. They want a warm house. They want a car with heated seats if you live in a cold place. We want great food. We want a life of ease. We want all our devices around us. We want easy friends who don't make us, maybe who don't stretch us. We want if we even read, we want easy books. I guess what I'm suggesting to you is voluntary discomfort will build you and strengthen you. And the great heroes of history often didn't do it voluntarily. They suffered. They suffered in a prison cell. They suffered for the benefit of their movement. They suffered long treks through mountains with not a lot of food when they're on a military campaign. They suffered the humiliation of being attacked by their critics. And so in this age of ease, we are becoming weak as leaders, weak as humans, weak as possibilitarians. And I'm just saying to you, sure, have your nice things. We all want a nice life, myself included. And yet make sure you don't fall into the chasm or the trap of living a life that is so easy that you don't develop those muscles of strength, fiery resolve, and moral authority. Fourth point, persistency versus the short game. We do live in a world where everything just happens so fast that if we have a project or a cause or a mission, if it doesn't happen instantly, or if it doesn't manifest or materialize the way we want it within a month or within a quarter, or even within a year, we give up. And we then start chasing the next shiny toy of opportunity. So I was in Piazza Navona in Rome a few weeks ago working on a new book. And I love Piazza Navona because it's one of the most beautiful squares on the planet. And when I'm in my creative cycle, I go there just to refuel. And if you walk into Piazza Navona, what you're going to see is, I think it's called the Four Rivers sculpture by Bernini. And the point I'm trying to make to you is, as I looked at this masterpiece of a sculpture, what I realized is the true masters are not all about impatience. They're not all about the short game. They understand that world class is a process and that genius could take decades. And what makes rare air output is the ability to stick with a singular vision of your masterpiece, whatever that is, a great company, a great family, a gorgeous life, a new book, a film, I don't know. But mastery comes through deep focus, patience, and persistency. And when I looked at Bernini's sculpture, you could see the level of detail, and so few people have it. It really is a gargantuan competitive advantage, a GC, what I teach in my work as a GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage, because most people don't have patience anymore. Most people do not have the grit and the resolve to stay with a sculpture, that's a metaphor for you, their sculpture for maybe a year on just a little piece. And maybe the next piece of your sculpture, another year or 2 years. It took 22 years to build the Taj Mahal, but it became one of the 7 wonders of the world. That's a metaphor for you that I really want you to think about.
Why do so many people on the planet right now medicate themselves? They medicate themselves with too much technology. Anyone agree with me? Show of hands or a round of applause. They are medicating themselves in front of that white screen. 110 times checking the smartphone every day. That is not checking your technology. You know what that is? That is an addiction and an escape from what is. And if you said to most people, did you know you're addicted to your smartphone? Did you know you're addicted to your notifications? Did you know you're addicted to your television? Did you know you're addicted to your excuses? Did you know you're addicted to gossip? Did you know you're drinking too much alcohol because you are addicted to it? Did you know that this is all a flight from what is? Because deep down inside, the deepest unknown part of you knows that you are in pain over potential unlived. They would fight you to the death. Am I making sense here? Show of hands. Deep down inside, I believe most people on the planet are heartbroken. Why? Because they have betrayed the visions, ambitions, values, mission in their heart. They have betrayed their talent by buying into the mass hypnosis that the world has sold them. And now they're 35 and they're 45 years old. And they're just, oh, no, this is what everyone does. And they just check. And then, you know what Blaise Pascal, the French mathematician, said? Most people, their misery is derived by their inability to sit quietly in a room by themselves. You know how many people are frightened of their own company? And I've shared with you, right? No, seriously, they're frightened of their own company. I've shared with you the neurobiology, transient hypofrontality. You can't play at Edison. You can't play at Misty Copeland. You can't play at world class unless you bring yourself away from the world and do the practice. do the training, do the thinking to set up transient hypofrontality. And that creates the pharmacy of mastery. And it brings you from beta to alpha. And it releases the dopamine and the serotonin. And the psychologists have told us that state is flow. And I guess what I've been suggesting with transient hypofrontality, you have flow within you. You have genius within you. Most of us are so distracted. They're so overstimulated. They're so interrupted that they don't create the silent spaces where their genius can present themselves. When something doesn't work out during your day and you get discouraged, you lose your fire, ask yourself this question: what's the opportunity here? That's what WTOH stands for. What's the opportunity here? What I've realized is when things don't work out, the victim says, oh, boo-hoo, poor me. They get stuck in sadness or anger or regret, and some of them spend the rest of their life in that state. What the leader does is this: you feel the pain. You notice the disappointment. You never want to suppress that. That would build up the toxic emotions within you. So feel the disappointment. If it's, you forgot your keys somewhere, you lost your wallet, you missed a train, you missed a meeting, you lost a sale, or maybe it's something heavier. You just got your heart broken. You just lost your job. You just got some negative news from your doctor at your annual checkup. I mean, that's one of the things that happens in life. We all face very hard times. When those things happen, feel the emotion. Do not suppress it, because the quickest way out of the painful or sad emotions is straight in. But here's the real key. Ask yourself, what's the opportunity here? How can I use this small or large negative event to grow? How can I use this situation to give me more wisdom, to give me more acumen, to make me more experienced? How can I use this situation to strengthen me and fortify me? How can I use this situation to become more authentic and more real? Because it's the difficult things in life that crack open our social mask and allow us to be more real and more authentic. How can I use this situation to build my relatability so I'm more relatable to human beings? And ultimately, how can I use this situation as fuel to make my life even better? So on our little planet, it's a core philosophy of mine. We're brothers and sisters on a little planet. That homeless person was someone's dreams at a time. The person in the restaurant or the hotel, who it's very easy if we're numbed out and not awake, that's someone's father or mother. And when I look at most people on the planet, it's no judgment. I see people they're in scarcity versus generosity. I see so many people saying, when I was a kid, I had all this creativity. I don't know where it happened. You see it every day. You have all these people, I want to build a business. I guess I can't. It's psychology of can't versus mentality of possibility. I see people in pain. I see people playing victim. Wouldn't you agree most people on the planet at some form or another, whether it's with their creativity or their prosperity or their personal lives, they're stuck in victimhood? I would say pleasing comes from fear and a lack of standing in your true power. There's a distinction I make in the 5 a.m. Club between fake power, big office, for example, lots of money, jets, titles. That's fake power. True power is Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi. He died with under 10 possessions. That's true power. He did not get his power from who he was in the world and by pleasing people. He got his power by intimacy with his highest nature. That's true power. So what's the difference between pleasing and service? Pleasing comes from scarcity and fear, self-loathing and insecurity. If they don't like me,
then I'm not enough. Well, any great genius, the great women and men of the world stood alone, even if they were an army of one. Galileo, Coco Chanel, Catherine Graham, Shakespeare, Jean-Michel Basquiat. If you look at the great producers of the planet, they were ridiculed before they were revered. You can change the world or you can be liked by everyone. You don't get to do both. So service comes from, here's my vision. Maybe it's the internet, maybe it's Apple, maybe it's, writing a book or a movie. Here's my vision. And even if the world laughs at me, I am so strong in my vision to serve, to disrupt the field, to bring on value, and to live my truth, that even if they shoot me and take a bullet, I will continue at all costs. That is a titan. That's a legend. But a lot of us have not done the inner excavation. And that's why I go back to the 4 interior empires. That's why the 5 a.m. club, 5 to 6, the victory hour, doing the protocols that I teach in the book is transformational. Because the doorway to success doesn't open outward. If you get it inward and build that core, that warrior meets poet self, you go out in the world, you're powerful.
You said that everybody should have core values. What are some of your most deeply cherished core values?
Service above self. In other words, contribution, impact, service. Number 2, family. I mean, if I could be a tenth of the human being my 2 children are, I'd be amazing. Family, I've worked very hard, but I've really worked hard on my family too. Even trying to be a great son, a great brother, all those things. Because we all know, to get to the last day of your life and say, I made a lot of money and I got a lot of likes and I sold a lot of books and I impacted a lot of people, and your own family never got to know you, that's heartbreak. 3rd value, I'm an aesthete, the French word, lover of beauty. That's why I love Los Angeles. Like, we were coming over here and it's like, there's flowers, it's whatever time of the year is, there flowers everywhere, So I love beauty in art and food and people and sunsets, and that's why I love Rome so much. Now, that 4th value would be vitality. I really do believe that one of the keys to legendary is longevity. I mean, I want to live till 177. I want to, right? I mean, I'm biohacking and I'm resting and I'm doing the 2 massage protocol and everything possible so I can be rocking my craft and serving as many people as possible when I'm into, one of the things I'd say is you never want to let an old person anywhere near the inside of your body, right? And we could get into epigenetics and the fact that we have a chronological age and a biological age, but vitality is important. And then I think the final core value is lifestyle. We can serve the world, and that's very important, I know, to both of us. But life is ultimately a really short ride. And so I want to really be around only people. I mean, I am focused. I only want people in my orbit that bring me joy or fuel my joy. I only want to do the pursuits in my business and career and life that bring me joy. And I only go to places where I feel joy. We were born into brilliance. The saints and mystics and philosophers have talked about it, As we go out in the world, we take on the beliefs and the emotional patterns of those who influence us, And then what happens is we actually forget who we truly are. One thing that I think is very important is also build intimacy with mortality. Because, sometimes people probably ask you this, they ask me this, what do you want to be remembered for? Well, I'm pretty clear. I'll be dust. Hopefully I'll get to live a long life, but I'll be dust and no one will remember me aside from my family, And so why make it about ego? And as we connect with our mortality, we realize what life is really about. And that's a great thing to do from 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, like in that second pocket of the 20-20-20 formula, write in your journal, on the last hour of my last day, what do I want said about me? And have the discipline to architect your life so each day is a mountain climb towards that Mount Everest. I know this sounds simple, but it's so powerful.
so many people say, yes, when this happens, I will do this. When I have more time, I'll write the book. When I make more money, I'll invest in my growth. When I get the promotion, I'll take the travel. No one knows what tomorrow brings. No one knows what tomorrow brings. No one knows what tomorrow brings. Keep on asking yourself, if I don't do this now, how will I feel later? So don't wait. I'm not saying be foolish. You want to definitely not make ill-considered choices. And at the same time, do not wait.
I think there's just an opportunity for people when they bring their full presence and their heart to their work. You will be seen now, given the landscape, as extraordinary.
In the 5 a.m. Club, I call it a GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage.
Yes.
It has never been so uncrowded at world class because so few people are doing the fundamentals of world class.
Yes.
So few people literally sit down in blocks of time, create what I call a tight bubble of total focus, and do real work versus fake work. Tranquility is the new luxury. So whether you're a homemaker, a professional athlete, an entrepreneur, a pizza builder, maybe that's not the term of art, but you do your best work, we have our greatest impact, and we are most true to our best selves when we're tranquil, peaceful, and serene. And that's another value of joining the 5 a.m. Club, because those hours before the sun rises are the most peaceful, magical, quiet period of the day. And if we can anchor in who we truly want to be before we go out into a messy world, well, we're going to fundamentally behave differently. I think, Marie, life's greatest heartbreak is being untrue to yourself. And I come from very humble beginnings. I have a great family. And yet the people around me said, if you become a lawyer, like I basically had a choice, become an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. And so I followed through on that, and I went to law school, and I became a really successful litigation lawyer. And I had, a nice place to live, and I had a nice car, and I was making great money. And people said, you're on your way to being a judge. And yet I would wake up every morning and I would look at myself in the bathroom mirror, and I didn't like or even know the person who was looking back at me. And I love that word angst. That angst just got to a point where I said I had to make some changes. And so I started listening to that silent whisper of my heart. There's something I believe in, which is instinct is much more powerful and wiser than intellect. And I think when all of us trust our instinct in a world that says intellect and logic is everything, we start to enter what Mr. Riley in the 5 a.m. Club calls the magic. And that's sort of what happened to me. I find your destiny doesn't knock, it whispers. And so it wasn't this epiphany,
Right.
It was just, I think when you start to trust your instinct and trust yourself versus the world, and you sort of block out the opinions of other people, the pace of synchronicity starts to open up, and these doors that you're supposed to walk through start to present themselves to you. I've gone through situations where people have tried to take me down. You're absolutely right. I've had 10 years of my personal journals where I pour my heart, my confusion, my pain, my hopes, my dream. I've had those, I'll just simply say, taken.
Wow.
Which taught me detachment.
Wow.
Like Lewis, imagine, do you journal?
A little bit, here and there, yes, a little bit.
Okay, journaling is incredible.
It's powerful, yeah.
For self-excavation, for creativity, productivity. We can get into epigenetics. If you want to rewire your psychology as well as your heart set, journaling is powerful. But I've had those taken
away from you.
Just taken away from me.
10 years of journals.
10 years of journals.
Oh my God, all your private thoughts.
All my private thoughts.
Fears.
Exactly. So that's just one thing that I've gone through.
So what was the lesson there? Learning detachment and
letting go.
Not caring about the opinions of others?
There's been another time of my life, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but where there was a situation where I could have lost everything that I've spent 22 years in this field of leadership and personal mastery building, which again taught me what real wealth and success is all about. I mean, there's a line in the 5 a.m. Club, which is your peace of, nothing is worth the price of your peace of mind. And we live in a world where a lot of people, this is right out of the book, an addiction to distraction is the death of creative production. There are a lot of cyber zombies on the planet. There are a lot of people on the planet right now giving the best hours of their finest days to the white screen of attractions. And I really think that betraying your genius, every single person on the planet has primal genius within them. That's scientifically proven. We can talk about it. I go into it in the book. But playing with your phone versus pursuing your monuments of mastery is betraying not only yourself, I think it's betraying the world. And so I really believe, and I've experienced it for 2 decades with my clients, getting up at 5 a.m. and running this calibrated 20-20-20 formula that much of the book is about, will take any human being to a new level of creativity, productivity, prosperity, and service to humanity.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. To see the top 10 I did on Brendan Burchard, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
If you leave your time to randomness, you are stealing from your greatness.
Necessity is kind of short for performance necessity, or what we call psychological necessity, which means